And it is to discuss the interim appointment of an acting city manager and the recruitment process for city manager. And I asked Human Resources Director Peggy Clifton to send to all of you ahead the profile for the position of city manager that we used before, because I wanted you all to be reminded of what, things, and the two people who weren't here when we did it, to see that, and to get us thinking about what we wanted to do at this point. I have my own ideas, but I don't know if we should start with mine or the other people. So maybe I should just jump in. Change it around. Okay. All right. First of all, I have strong feelings that we have two assistant city managers who have very strong qualifications for this position, and that they both want it. Secondly, I know that if one gets it and the other one doesn't, that they'll still work well together. Thirdly, when we did this before and did a national search, that was the mode that we were in then. But I still think we can use this information to judge the people, and I think that we should go in-house, promote in-house this time, within the ranks, and that it would serve us well for many reasons. We've had some good, hearty discussions about many issues that evolved around the budget and employees this year, and they've been in on all of that. The second thing is, when we did our search before, it cost us $30,000. And we just cut out some things that cost us $30,000. So I'm not sure that expending that kind of money again would get us anybody better. Now, those are my thoughts. You folks can say whatever you want. I don't know whether you agree or disagree, but I've given that quite a bit of thought.
Yeah.
Councilman Eisenbach?
In reading through this document, first thing that occurred to me is that we definitely need a one-page summary. And all the updates from your State of the City speech need to be added to it also.
Oh, yeah.
If we want to put this out there, it's a book. This is, if you're interested in our one-page summary, we would want to then have you read this exhaustive information. I think we should hire a search professional to, basically give competition. I mean, it's important. Everyone here knows that it's not easy times. And I think we need to look at who's available outside and inside, and make sure we're getting the absolute best person possible for the future of our city. I think we should put out an RFQ for a search, lack of a better term, a headhunter firm. And in terms of cost, obviously we know who the people are that work for us. We're very familiar with them. If we can get, my experience in the private sector is the headhunters work on a contingency basis, where if they bring in the person, they get a percentage of the pay. If they are not successful, they don't get paid.
I'm not familiar with that.
It's in the professional.
I've never heard that.
If it's not available, then it's not available. But I think we should look and see what options we have for a professional recruiter.
David, I've seen it both ways, where you pay a fee, also seen it on a contingency basis, you pay if they find someone. I agree with the mayor that we've got two good candidates internally, and they should be considered as we're evaluating. I agree with you, we should look outside as well, but at the same time, look internally. And I agree we need a professional from the outside. I know that we don't have time to go do it. Do you have any suggestions of a firm, or do you want to go out with a request for?
I think there are a few, and then hopefully at the meeting of the 30th, we can evaluate them so we don't lose time. It's 4 weeks.
Peggy, do you want me to call on you at this point, or I see you signaling over
I think
there?
there's an important factor to consider.
You want to come up and sit by Lori?
When we hired the Mercer Group a few years ago, they took a full 120 days to do their search. And an RFQ is going to take at least 45 days, I would say.
How about an abbreviated RFQ where you call the people that we are aware of?
Councilwoman Beltran?
What we did last time, Peggy, I think, was we contacted 4 or 5 firms that we knew were appropriate in the field, that's kind of what they do. And then they kind of told us what their services would entail and what it would cost, right? And that took almost the full 30 days that we had from the notice till when he was gone.
And it's also based on their availability schedule, too. Not just our schedule, but theirs. And they did an expedited one for us, remember? I'd like to hear from the rest of you. I mean, I know you all have opinions about it.
Mayor?
Last time, did we didn't just settle on the Mercer Group. We did we interview several, or did we just, my memory is, I'm hearing that we contacted several, but was it just the Mercer Group we interviewed? Anybody remember?
I think it was because they were available and they met all the criteria that we had set forward.
Yeah, the only information I have is just the solicitation of the proposal from the Mercer Group.
Okay.
I may still have the documentation.
Pardon?
I may still have the documentation because we had MML and the Mercer and the firm that found John the job in Sunny Isles, and then there was another one. There were 4 altogether. So, and it was my understanding that between John and Peggy, they made those contacts and said, in general, this is what we're looking for. And then I think in the interim, we kind of set out what we thought we could afford and what sort of a program we wanted, and looked and saw where the two came together. And the Mercer Group did and could do it on our timetable, as I recall.
Yeah, and I realize that I'm duplicating this, that there have been some changes over the years. In the community and that kind of stuff too.
State of the city.
But just so that you could see what was there, and also to see the description of, things that are expected, the things that are in the charter that are required here. And I brought my charter with us too, in case there was something we had to go to that. I know it's online now too, but. Okay.
I have a question for our city attorney. I remember last time we were really pushing it up against the deadline, and I vaguely remember you saying that the deadline can be extended under certain circumstances, or, help me out here.
According to the charter, the position has to be filled within 120 days. So it's 120 days from March 31st or April 1.
Okay, and there's no getting around that.
It's a requirement of the charter.
Or is a discussion about that, you know, getting right up to the deadline.
It's a charter requirement that
Okay.
it has to be filled there, you know.
Yeah, well, maybe I misunderstood that.
Okay.
I would be in favor of looking at some groups like we've done before, and both within and without. I think that, I really think whoever is our next manager the next couple of years are really going to be difficult ones. And it's, I'd like to go down that road of getting some kind of a professional recruiter in just to see who would be interested, and maybe we could interview a couple of companies, or at least put the calls out like we did before.
Okay. Councilwoman Kerwin or Mayor Pro Tem Howard?
I defer to you. Well, if you insist, I think that we're going down the right road. That sounds like the appropriate thing to do. What I remember, there were 4 or 5 that we basically received. I guess you might call them informal proposals. And I remember it succinctly because they each had different colored paper. There was a green one, there was a salmon colored one, I think there was a yellow one, and a white one. And you know, we at the time were, I think, had chosen the Mercer Group again for their availability, and at the time they appeared to be council. That council decided they were the best firm for us, and I think a similar process would allow us. You know, Phil, thank you. You've given us kind of a 30-day head start, so to say, or 29-day head start, which kind of takes a lot of pressure off us, and I certainly appreciate that. And I just want to make sure we use what time we have wisely.
We have the ability to actually post the position in state and national journals. We would, in fact, be able to do that, which would be a cost savings. I'm just considering that. Not searched before. Of course, this is a major responsibility of this council, is hiring and evaluating, finding the very best we can find. When faced with a situation like this before in Troy schools, we had the opportunity of having a fabulous deputy superintendent right there, someone in-house who was trained, understood the job, and who had served before in the capacity as an interim. So no matter what we choose now, we have 2 fine candidates in-house who want it, and will also be called upon to serve interim. Because should you, as a body, we as a body, decide to use a firm, then we're faced with an appointed interim again. You know, I'm looking at dollars and what makes sense, and I do see 2 fine candidates here. Although it seems that there's consensus at the table, or there is a majority at the table who wants to use firms.
I think one thing that's important for us to get, and of course we would get it either way, is to get a complete resume from both Brian Murphy and John Namorato with all the details of their background, training, expertise, etc. Because, you know, we go from memory here, and we would be comparing to other candidates. I expressed my personal feelings about it at the onset, but I do think that it's good that we all discuss it and we'll come to a decision as a group, because it is a major time commitment, not only on the part of staff to do this, but on us too, because if you recall, when we actually did this profile with the Mercer Group, it meant extra time. We had to meet with them individually as well as collectively, and so there's a lot of factors involved there with doing it this way.
I'd suggest too that we try to think a little outside the box on this one, rather than just limiting our search to those individuals who are just strictly municipal professionals, that we look at the professional management in general and see if there might be a candidate, who's not spent his entire career or her entire career just in municipal government, but maybe the private sector. Look at the private sector as well. Suggestion. So we don't want to just focus just on individuals with municipal expertise. Got two fine candidates here with that. I'm sure there are others, but think outside the box a bit. We're in for some tough times, and I think that maybe looking at alternative, different thinking rather than just municipal government.
Councilman Beltrame?
I don't disagree with you, Wade. My only caveat I would put on that is I think that in looking at those business people, they need to have had some municipal experience somewhere, and I don't care if they were a collegiate intern, but there are lots of things that cities can't do that business people think we ought to be able to do, but it's just beyond the law to do. And I don't want to hire somebody and put them in the position of trying to make a decision, trying to make a change, and have all of their senior staff say, "Are you nuts?" the first 3 times they try what they think is a creative solution. And I think as responsible leaders and decision makers, we need to keep that in mind. So that would be the only caveat I would put on that, is somebody who is strictly a business person. It may be difficult to find somebody who truly understands some of those ins and outs.
And
Councilman Curran?
I do feel strongly about training. I would like someone from the field. I do value civil engineering. I did appreciate the planning background, because you can talk about the breadth of things. I think that there are a lot of people. You weren't considering a politician or anyone like that, just someone from outside. So I guess we differ in that.
As I look at the kinds of things that are required in the charter for the city manager with functions and duties, I think that we need to be very careful about choosing someone who could perform all of those within the constraints that city government has to work within. And the fact that there are sometimes situations out, as I don't want to repeat everything that Councilwoman Beltramini said, but the things that are done out in the business world that may not be applicable to what we need to hear for the city of Troy. I know that in looking at the candidates previous, we ruled some people out who were on the short list because they didn't meet the standard that was there. And so I think that that's really important to look at. Councilman Beltrame?
I have one other comment, and it comes from our experience of 3 years ago. Everybody said it. We have 2 perfectly fine candidates sitting here, both of them with MPAs and all of the academic requirements and years of training. I want to ask the question straight out so that there is no misunderstanding. Even if we choose to go outside and choose to appoint either John or Brian interim, can they both be considered for this position? In some cases, people do not want to consider an interim for the full time. And I want that clear so that they know what that is and the rest of us know. I don't want to come to this decision in May or June and think that my guy may or may not be eligible if that's what I decide after looking at everybody. So write out, if you appoint him as interim, are you going to let him apply for the full-time job?
Mayor?
Councilwoman Broomfield?
I think last time we looked at if they were going to be an interim, they were not going to apply.
That's right.
That did take place last time. I'm not so sure that that has to be the standard. I mean, we set the standard. The assumption here, though, is that, and again, I'm feeling a bit awkward with two good guys sitting here talking about your future. But the assumption is, too, that there'll be either one will be appointed as interim. We haven't even got to that point yet.
I know that.
And but I think anybody who gets appointed as interim, we should not assume that they cannot apply for the job. I felt constrained last time in how that all spilled out. I don't think a person should have to pick between, am I going to accept an interim appointment, or should I try to get this job but bypass this opportunity to have the experience of an interim? You know, I don't think that's necessary.
Okay, that's two. There are 7.
I think it's very important that the person that is chosen as interim be as equal in applying for the position and as anyone. I think there's things that need to be done in this interim time, you know, so we only have the 120 days, that it be very important that we keep moving along. You know, we're coming up to budget, and that's crucial, and we've got some other crucial timelines here, and so I think that that'd be important. But I think it's very important to be fair to everybody concerned. I'm glad you expressed that.
A question, though, tonight, do we appoint an interim tonight? I mean, not until after.
We would have to do it, correct me if I'm wrong, we have to go into, we can't do it at the study session, we'd have to go.
No, you will have 2 opportunities. You have 2 meetings before the 31st. There's one on the 23rd and another one on the 30th. Of course, I'm sure that people would like to know as soon as possible, but
Right.
There are 2 other opportunities in a regular meeting.
There has been a request, and I concur, that we would have full resumes and letters, and we haven't
Yeah.
received those, even though we, you know.
Well, I think that, if I can speak for you too, that they were waiting until we actually accepted Phil's resignation, which is the protocol that you do usually.
I was mentioning that just
Yeah.
so that we knew that we weren't doing this tonight.
Right.
We do have time. There will be other opportunities, and I believe that that's why you were bringing that up, so that we would have.
Plus, I think everybody likes to get their things and take time on their own to read them and study them, you know.
I do agree with the ladies so far, though. I don't know why before an interim could not continue to apply, but I agree with the 3 speakers before me that interim should not rule out someone seeking manager.
I agree, but the other side here is it's going to be very difficult if you appoint an interim and then the other person gets the job. And I think that can happen, but you just don't know. I think that both of these gentlemen have their work cut out for them full time for the next 4 months, I guess approximately 5 months if it takes us that long. We're going through a lot of change. Even if we did appoint one as an interim, did fill the position internally after going outside, I think we'd probably still have to find another assistant city manager when that process was over.
We don't find it.
But that's up to the manager.
That's the
to
city
do.
manager to do that.
Right.
I know. But there's going to be another one there. But there are other alternatives. We can look for someone else as an interim and keep these 2 guys doing exactly what they're doing, both qualified candidates being evaluated for the job without doing one of them as an interim.
So are they eligible or not if they're appointed interim?
I think so.
Okay. We want to hear from David and Martin. You want to say anything regarding this?
This is a question I hadn't considered, and I should have thought of it, and I should have had a chance to sleep on it.
Well, they've both
Yeah.
served as interim before, as
Yeah.
acting city managers before, and so, you know, they
Right.
both
I've not been
know
an acting
everything.
manager.
Pardon?
I've not been an acting manager.
Well,
I've been a manager.
Manager.
not an acting manager.
Active, not acting.
And John has served.
I'm not passing the candy. Any
I'd
other?
go back to my original statement, I want the best city manager possible for the future of the city. And so, no, I couldn't say that the acting city manager would be disqualified. Although it would be very difficult to pick one and then give it to the other.
That would just be admitting that you didn't make the best choice
The
at the
first time.
beginning, and we didn't, yeah. It's no reflection on them.
I think they've both been at this long enough that they could figure it out.
But getting back to the process,
Yes.
I would feel very comfortable if we put the calls out, and then based on the response, maybe had a time that we interviewed, 1, 2, 3, I mean, you know, however many timeline it would work for them as well as what our timeline is, and do an interview of the company and then make a decision from there. That's what I'm comfortable with.
We probably have to look at dates that are other than a council meeting.
Yeah.
date
Well, I
to
know
do
that. Cancel your trip to the Caribbean.
Hopefully we can have some interviews by the 30th.
Firms.
Yes.
With firms, not candidates,
Right.
professional recruiters, to use the proper term. I'd like to see that by the 30th, if all possible, for our agenda. Question would be, where would we put it in the agenda?
Would it be a study session?
That's late at night.
No, we wouldn't be able to do it at the same meeting as a council meeting, is what I just said. We'd have to set up a
Before
special
Sure.
meeting.
6:30.
No,
No, we'd have to have a
special.
special meeting.
I don't-
We need more time than that.
I don't think so. I mean, the whole intent of the third meeting was for this very reason.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, we went from 2 meetings to 3 meetings.
Now we're back to 2, so.
Right,
Well, we have 3 meetings in March.
March.
in March. Yeah, we have the 23rd and then we have the 30th. So that's what you want to,
Question for Peggy. Is it reasonable for you to call 5 firms tomorrow and say, can you send us a draft proposal by the 23rd?
Sure.
So that then by the 30th, we would be actually looking at something? Okay.
I doubt that we would actually be interviewing all these firms. A lot of these are out-of-state firms, and I don't know that they're going to send a team up here for an interview and, you know, just, yeah. Yeah.
That's right,
Yeah.
we had the different colors.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why we weren't throwing red. That's what it was. They could send us their,
so it'd probably be April before we can, pardon?
No, 30th of March.
I would think
They
by
can come by
mid-December.
then.
or they just send their information,
Yeah.
like maybe before.
I don't think we've met any of them.
Or March.
No, we just had that
No.
I don't
initial
think we
meeting
met
with Mercer.
Did we?
No, I don't know that we got the
I don't think we did.
proposals, but,
Yeah.
and if they can't get it to us on time, I guess we could just indicate that we'd knock them out of consideration.
So does that mean that the meeting of the 30th, we need a light agenda again? I don't know what's in there. The 23rd, we already have
A lot.
But that's the regular meeting.
a lot. Well, the 30th is scheduled as a regular meeting. Also, I'm just saying that, you know, if we're going to do all that, certainly aren't going to, because 23rd, we've got those public hearings, and then we've got the 7 liquor hearings, then the regular agenda things that have to come.
And was that the Clark Hill?
Mm-hmm.
And that was first. It's a long meeting.
I have a question.
I'm just giving the time frame. Okay.
In looking in-house, in looking at a firm, would we also accept through the Human Resource Department applications if somebody hears about it? I mean, we talked about putting something like a
Posting.
I mean, I don't think we should rule that out.
They had to go through the vetting process, though, last time when we...
Well, I know that, and I
chose
wasn't
the ones that they had to go
comfortable that once we selected a firm, it was the firm that took control. That bothered me. I think that if there's, I mean,
If we had someone else, they should be put in the mix.
That's what you're paying them for.
I understand
And
that.
that puts everybody on the same footing.
That particular firm forgot that I was the customer. That's my personal opinion.
Well-
But anyway, I like the idea of being able to have some say-so in the list or the candidates or the short list that they bring. And in that case, of course, the way it worked out, the firm did not honor, I didn't think, my request to look at somebody, and I had to fight to get that to happen. Now, the person never made it, and that's okay, but I had the right, as a customer, to say I wanted to look at this person, and if I got outvoted, I got outvoted, but I wasn't. And so, maybe that would be in part of the interview of these firms, that if there is somebody that wants to submit an application, they should have the right to do that if we want to look at that person.
I don't know if I agree, though, Christine. I don't agree with that.
We disagree on a lot of things, but I want to, if something comes across the table that I'm interested in, I want to have that right to look at it. I don't want
Well, that
someone else
person would
taking
then
it away.
submit it to the
Right.
firm that you hired. I
Right.
certainly think that the person should be able to submit it to the firm, but not that we as individuals get to say
Does that mean that our in-house folks go through the firm?
Yeah, everybody goes through the firm.
I think
So
that's...
they might not make
yeah.
the short list.
Right.
Well, I think the process is part of...
What if I want them to make the short list and the firm won't do it? See, that's what I'm saying. That's where there was a tug-of-war with our last, you remember. There was a tug-of-war because they were not...
You didn't think they were giving the
That's-
candidate due diligence?
That's where I thought we'd have an interview, and then, because my blunt question is how responsive are you going to be to your customer? The 7 of us. This is a political decision. He's going to be melding 7 ideas into finding a person that will hopefully have the consensus of all of us in support.
I wouldn't be comfortable if our 2 assistant managers decided to go through the process and they didn't make the short list. I would say to that firm, I want them on the short list. I want to do some interviewing here. And if they said, well, you can't, because this is the criteria and this is our list and we're not going to do that.
I mean, I remember that, and I don't think that that's what they said. They said their guarantee wasn't good on that person.
Right.
We could interview,
But that was
but their
only
guarantee
after
wasn't-
I
yeah,
kicked and yelled.
But their guarantee wasn't good on that person because they
I
would not
understand.
have made their.
And I
criteria.
was okay with that, Robin, but they didn't come to that point until I got angry, and I didn't want to have to go
But I
there.
think that's an equitable compromise.
I think so,
Is,
too.
You know,
I
all
think-
right.
I think so, too, that
If
they-
you feel strongly about presenting some candidate to the group,
Mhm.
then that candidate has to go through the firm.
Right, okay.
But if the firm says, you know what, you're the customer, we don't agree that this person measures up, so our bets in this are off.
Mhm.
And we've done the minimal betting that we're going to do on somebody with this criteria. But we'll put his or her resume in there, and you guys decide. I mean, I think that's a compromise that
I'm fine with
we could
Yeah.
live with.
Well, they have to meet the standard
Yeah, it has
that
to be
we
the chart.
set for education, professional development, education, skills, etc. And if the firm says that they don't meet that criteria, they put that in the report to us, because that's if you're going to go with a firm.
But I think all applications and resumes need to go through the firm. If we're hiring a professional, let them vet everybody under the same criteria.
I think it's also good to have an outside
Absolutely.
party handling it. It removes the stickiness, if you will. I mean, it makes your job a little bit easier, Peggy, too, you know. And like you said, we're paying for it, so we might as well get those services. And as far as how they handle that, that's part of the negotiated contract. I mean, if there's something that you felt uncomfortable with the way it was handled the last time, make sure that that's addressed before we enter into a contract with whoever we enter into a contract with. But I think we're good with. I think this will work.
Again, the firm will ask all of us if we agree with that. I mean, you may present that position and get a couple of people to agree with you, but maybe not the majority. I just wanted to throw it out there to you, my comments at the beginning about not spending the money, because I know we worked long and hard to find ways to save the money, and that I felt very strongly as we look at the resumes and the information provided us by Brian Murphy and John Namorato, that they meet the standard that was set up, and the standard is very high. And so I just want to throw that out there as an option. Right. So we all set? We've decided as a group. We won't have a resolution.
No.
Give direction.
Give direction, and we'll see what companies can meet the standard of our timeline too. That was an important factor, I think, and maybe the deciding factor last time when we decided.
How do you advertise the RFP? Would we put it on the website and just call firms?
Well, it was my understanding we weren't going to do an RFP, that I was just going to call and ask for a written proposal.
Right.
We should still advertise it on the website though, right? That we're interested.
I don't think that's necessary,
Okay.
no.
But they do that.
Yes.
Right.
There are only 3 or 4 firms even that advertise in the municipal review, for example. 2 of them we've used. We've used the Par Group, we've used Mercer Group.
I'm concerned if we get a firm that only does city managers, that their scope of candidates is only existing city managers, because I am very interested in getting the outside experience.
Most of them do. They have a division that specializes.
Yes, they're usually very broad-based.
Okay, because I don't want that to be a criteria that they have to be a city manager recruiting firm.
No.
Experience
have an
in
opinion.
high-level recruiting, right?
They may offer an opinion on that balance, but usually they're broad-based, broader-based than that. They're called executive search firms.
Okay, that's what I was expecting.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have anything else we want to do on this item?
Yeah, when do we?
Oh, and then, wait. Who wants to go first?
Talk about the interim and make a decision on that? What's the recommendation on that? We got a couple of meetings.
Well, we can have a discussion of that because it was included, that's the reason why it was included in the study session, so we can go to that.
Well, how do we have a discussion without making a
I still would like to see a resume. I'm not prepared to have that discussion until the 23rd, I would say, or a special meeting to appoint.
Any time between now and the end of the month. I mean, if somebody wants to put forward a resolution now, that works. If you want to wait, that works too.
But without having the resume information on the person that is suggested, is that fair to that person or the others involved? It's like appointing someone to boards and committees. We always get the resume, the form filled out, and everything. We even get it the week before, 2 weeks before, so we can look at it. And this is even more important than doing people for boards and committees.
I don't think it's necessary. I mean, if, I understand Mary wants it, but I don't think it's necessary that, especially if we appoint somebody in-house for an interim, that we ask for a resume. I just, to me, then it's almost creating another contest, so to speak. And I don't want to do that with what we've got now, because the city's gone through a lot, and I just, you know, we want the next few months, whoever is our interim manager, is going to be a bridge person, somebody that really just fills the gap in until we get that final person. And I don't want to accept resumes and make it like a contest. We just need to think about it. If someone wants to bring forward a name and gives reasons why they feel that way, you know, and we would go from there. But a resume, I mean, you already know these two guys.
I actually don't know the education on either one. I know.
Well, then they can send you their resume. I don't care for it. I mean, I'm fine with it.
Well, the only problem is if they send it, they have to send it to all of us. They can't send it just to
I just don't want a contest. I
It
don't
would be
want
the
to
same
go there with
if we
that.
were choosing for anything, for any kind of position, that we would have background information, how long served, where, what, training, all of that matters.
Never said
Of course it
didn't matter.
matters.
I just don't think that the resume is as important if the person has or is working for the city. If the person has no, you know, if we don't know who this person is, then it certainly is a prerequisite, I would say.
Well, I have a suggestion.
Yes?
I suggest that we have Charlie Kraft as our interim city manager, not either one of these guys, because they're going to be equally aggressively going after the job. We've got a person who's retired. We know that everyone in the city respects him. He's not a professional city manager. Don't think he's going after the job as the city manager, but it would be an interim position till we could fill it. And then evaluate these two guys without having one of them interim or acting city manager. Because there's still a lot of work to be done here. They've got their work cut out for them. This city needs, I think, someone that we all know, trust, not a professional city manager, but yet can continue with the team building and building bridges till we can get the person we want to choose. We decide as a full-time city manager. That's what I'm thinking. I've given this some thought. I'll tell you this, Charlie Kraft is not out campaigning for the job. I can assure you of that. But I did ask him if he would consider it. And he said, I will do anything to help this city. I love this city. I'll do anything to help this city. Doesn't matter. If that's what the council would like me to do, I will do it. But I think that would be a good step while we seek full-time city manager. That's my thought. And that's thinking outside the box a little bit.
Okay.
But I do that.
Yeah, I know you do. The only thing is that there are certain areas, and I talked to Charlie about this too, because I'd already heard that
Okay.
rumor that some council members had already talked to people about if they wanted the position. So I just called them up and asked them. And there are certain areas that Charlie admits that he does not know about, that both Brian and John do know about.
Sure.
That because he hasn't had to deal with those areas. And so he does know that.
The beauty of it is, John and Brian are still here. They do know those areas, and they are still here. And they're both very capable. Will continue to do their job.
It just seems strange to me to have the interim city manager be somebody that is actually going to get direction from the other people that are under him at the position. So that's... I think that's an uncomfortable situation for Charlie.
Hey, well, Mayor,
Yes.
I don't think we've ever expected any member of staff to know it all.
No.
I mean, you always rely on the people that work for you for any job until you get down to the bottom, the lowest level of work.
Robin?
Wade,
Yes.
ask Charlie to send us a resume. John and Brian are going to have to send resumes. Ask Charlie to send us a resume, and I know Christina doesn't necessarily need or want that, but I think that makes it fair for everybody. I mean, we know John and Brian, what they're used to dealing with on a daily basis. We know they've got MPAs. We know some other stuff about them. Have Charlie send us a resume. Put him in the same pot.
Well, actually, it would be Peggy that would, isn't it? Who requests the,
They're going to be distributed.
Doesn't matter.
They can send them to us, we just can't send them to each other.
yeah, no, they need to be, I think they need to be sent to
I would
Human
say,
Resources.
Mayor,
and then
you
they
set
come
up
to
a
us.
system. It'll be fine.
And remember,
Send them to Phil.
yeah, I think that would be more appropriate.
Pardon?
I think it should go to Mr. Nelson. Because, you know, from a chain of command thing, if this you know, I just don't like the idea of sending a resume to somebody who's going to be reporting to you. And the city agenda is essentially the domain of the city manager and the city attorney. Otherwise, you could send it to Lori's office. That works too.
Okay, so we'll get those 3 in, and then you want to decide on the 23rd?
Sure. Just kind of, Wade's not hanging out
Anybody
there.
else thinks
Is
of
that 2
anybody
weeks?
else have
Let's
to
say
send
someone
a
else send a
resume to?
resume.
I would like to send a resume.
Pardon?
No.
You don't want to have that discussion now.
I'm a counselor. Let's have a group discussion.
I'll tell you, I'd be willing to act on it this evening. I mean, I think at the last regular council meeting, we had a resolution to do that, and I think it's important to have clarity as soon as possible. And I would certainly be willing to move forward this evening. John has served us in the past as interim city manager. We've worked with Brian. I think you've been here, what, 3 years?
maybe
Well,
they're-
to be honest
wait
with you,
for the resume
to
then.
make it fair, I almost flipped out when I realized that woman's been on council for 10. So, obviously my
Clock.
obviously my concept of time is deteriorating as I, approach 40 here. But at any rate, my point is that we know you two, we know Charlie Kraft, and I would be willing to move forward on it so that we can focus on the city manager search.
But how would you do that if we're in closed session?
This is
I mean,
Study session.
study session.
The other thing is, we have at least one council member that's uncomfortable doing that. So I think that procedurally it would be helpful if we all had
And-
appropriate information.
And truthfully, we have a city manager in place until the 31st. We accepted that. We asked for it. So we have a city manager in place. This rush to appoint someone without looking at a resume or seeing the letter or anything else just because, gee, we know them, I don't think serves us well at all. I don't think that gives good direction. I don't think that's thoughtful.
I don't know if it's a way of word or what, but it just pointed out to me that our video isn't working. And this is
Well, they were having technical difficulties in
sorry, not to interrupt.
the council meeting previously, and then that's why we had to wait to start, so I don't know what it has to do with the equipment, so I don't know. Pardon? We're still in an open meeting, even if it's not on the video, because for years we didn't have a video, but anybody could come in.
All newspapers that have been relying on video instead of coming to our meetings are losing out.
God punishes.
Don't rely on video and technology for coming to meetings.
Was it working in the big room? I mean, was that?
Yeah, that's why we had to wait, that's why we didn't start. You thought we were waiting for you.
No, I knew that wasn't the case. You're very prompt, and I was about 2 minutes late today.
Everybody got real hushed in there, we were all looking at the clock, like, how come she's not
It's
starting?
working, it's live.
It is working?
It's
Okay.
live.
Okay,
was a
thank you.
false
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Anyway,
So we want to act on this tonight, or what, if we're going to act on this tonight, we have to.
well, we did have a request for somebody who hasn't been through this. Some of us have been through this procedure many times, and so, you know, we know. And it's not fair to ask someone who's requested getting information and not get it. It's like Christina wanted to have her comments to the firm about things, and we're going to let her have her comments.
But
We
what
can
I
do
don't
it
want
on
to
the-
do is,
We
I
can
don't
do it
want
on the
to,
23rd.
I don't want to see the interim turn into a tug of war.
I don't either.
And that's where, you know, you start getting, okay, you want the resumes, I understand. For me, I just don't want to see, I don't want to see it be a race.
Okay. I think it'll all work out, frankly. I have great confidence that it's all going to work out. That if we do it on the 23rd, we'll have a chance to think on it, you know.
Okay.
So, just out of curiosity, if the last council meeting had turned out differently, does that mean we wouldn't have had a city manager?
We would
I
have
don't-
to appoint somebody.
Is that part of our discussion now?
Well, I'm just curious as to the if you know the reason for waiting. That's all.
Well, actually, at the last council meeting, it was a request from the table that the city manager extend to March 31st. So that happened. So that's where we are.
16, wasn't it?
So we would be currently with a city manager, as we are now.
Graciously complied with our request.
Respectfully offered.
Okay. 23rd.
Okay, so let's do it on the 23rd, and now we can go to the
Closed session.
Closed session.
Part 1.
Right.
To have public
Oh,
comment.
I'm sorry, public comment, anybody?
Yes.
Yes, Marianne?
Well, first I'd just like to comment that the tape did go off at home, and that's why I'm here. It just suddenly cut off, and I don't know what part of the meeting didn't get televised, but I think if we need new equipment, it seems like we're always having trouble with those cable broadcasts, and I think it's a really important part of our city government, because that's the window through which residents can view the operations of our local city government. And we need equipment, and we can spend $7,600 a month on a lobbyist, but we can spend money to get proper equipment so that residents in this city can know what's happening at the municipal level of our government. And I also commend you for deciding to go with a professional firm, because I think, again, as far as priorities go, what could be more important than our city manager position? And if we can't spend money there, then, you know, we're a question of priorities. And thirdly, I would like to commend Mr. Nelson. I read in the paper, one of the comments said that what the new city who's hiring him, one of the things they appreciated in him was his quiet Midwestern demeanor. And when I read that, it hit a chord with me, because I thought, you know, that's what I really liked all the time about him, was his demeanor. It was so calming and reassuring, and in this hectic life that we live, it was so nice to meet a person who could project those feelings and kind of make you feel a little bit more secure, and I really appreciated that. And I also appreciated that, as being on my homeowners board, we had some problems that we needed some help with in terms of permits for the kids' parades and things like that. And it came to Mr. Nelson. He had an open door policy. It was very welcoming and very, very, very helpful. And the kids ended up having a terrific time. It became something that we're going to have all the time. And I think largely because of his help. I think without that it wouldn't have been so successful and gotten off the floor the way it did. And so the kids in our neighborhood are going to always have fun on Halloween, and in large part to Mr. Nelson. So you may be leaving, but you won't be leaving in some ways too. So we really do appreciate that. And I don't understand what happened. I don't think any of the residents in the city know what happened. It's a mystery to me. Not much came through in the papers in terms of what or why or wherefore. All I can say is, in my state of confusion, I'm sorry to see Mr. Nelson that you're leaving, but I hope you're happy, in the new place that you go, and that you're very welcome, because I think you deserve it. And again, I do hope that you'll search for, as far as hiring from within, there have been some policies that have come down the pike that I think that I find very troubling. And, I have opinions about those things. I mean, as many of you have said, if you're hiring within, we know the people, we know the policies they stood by. I would like to know how, if you view the input of people who have lived under these policies or seen them come and go and have opinions about them, do you care about the opinion of the residents on those issues? I think hiring from within is a pretty, I think Councilman Howrylak said it's a sticky issue, and I think it's pretty sticky. I have very positive feelings on some things and very not so positive feelings on some other things. So, it's hard to even decide where you're at sometimes when you see the whole picture. Sometimes when you see everything, it makes it even a little more confusing. And I think you should, if you're hiring within, I think you need to look at the residents a little bit more and what have they experienced with these people. Even tonight I have some observations. So, and I think they're very valid observations. And, but I don't feel comfortable. I don't know if these cameras are working or not. They weren't before, and who knows if they are now. So, but I don't feel comfortable sharing those kinds of, any kind of observation like that would impact on the hiring or not hiring of the person in the public. But I would urge you to elicit or find some forum for residents who would want to provide some input. You're hiring someone to represent us. It's not an elected office, and yet it's a position that affects all of us significantly down through the years. And I just gave you some examples of how maybe you might view, an Easter hunt or a Halloween parade as a small thing. I don't, because it's really creates a sense of community in my neighborhood. So those kinds of things that will impact us down through the years, and I would hope you would try to find a way that if you're hiring within, that you get some input from residents down the line. If you're hiring from without, I would say you should go with your decision to, sorry if I'm not, but that you should go with your decision to hire a professional team, and I commend you for doing that. I think that was a very wise decision. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Audrey?
One thing I would like to see is that any new manager or anyone not hire family or relatives within the city, because since I've lived here, all I can think of is the program All in the Family. And the more I hear this one's got this relative here and this one's got that relative there, and I'm thinking, it's almost like everybody's related to everybody some way, except for a few that I know that are not. And I just think that it should be in there that no relatives, this is part of the job thing, that no relatives can be related. And if you're married, then one has to leave the city, not work in the city. I think it's time that Dad put in. They do that in a lot of corporations. That if you get married to somebody within the business, one of you has to leave.
Question.
Yes.
Audrey, are you talking about any employees or the city manager? Because you
Well,
started with the
the
city
city manager
manager.
hires.
Yeah.
And I think that
We should have no married or siblings
Right.
or children or.
That's the end of the police department, I think.
Well, that's what happens. And then they're all in there, and I know what unions are like too. And you get them all in there, and you all stick together, and you're like a losing battle.
Except that they had to pass the examination, the testing and everything, and it was strictly on the merits of their qualifications. It had nothing to do with the fact that they're related to anyone, and I know that that's always been the policy here in the city of Troy, that for any position, they must meet the merits and the standards. I don't know that we could restrict, but it certainly isn't like some cities that I know of that are a little ways from here, where they have some policies that are not, but Troy has never been like that. We've always been very, very fair about making sure that they meet, and lots of times they exceed the qualifications that are expected for the position. All right, we're going to do our closed session now?
Yep.
Okay?
Thanks,
So,
folks.
thank you.